Oh, welcome back to Nature of Reality Radio. It is a pleasure having you on the show again. We had a fascinating chat last time when you came on the show to talk about the Book of Man and everything that went with it, and you've got some other documentaries and programs that you've uploaded to Vimeo that I was glad to have watched before this interview as a primer. And I'm going to give you the chance to talk about that, and I'm going to give you the floor to talk about those things, and I'll shut myself up and put myself on mute. But before I do, just a quick little disclaimer of sorts that I need to give out to all my listeners. I cannot monetize on YouTube anymore with ads. They are playing games with me. They say they're going to do it someday, but they're probably not. So I have to upload all my interviews to cost.tv. I ask all my listeners when I upload my videos to YouTube, please only listen for 15 seconds for the sake of giving me a view count, and then click on the link in the video description to cost.tv video, where you will find the videos there. They only allow for hour uploads, so I may have to divide it into a couple of parts. That's the way it goes. And from now on, this show forward, I am going to be doing live shows with people having the ability to participate in the chat. However, I am not going to make it a free chat. I have set up an account with Throne.live where people will have to pay me a subscription in order to participate in that chat. I think it's about time I start monetizing my work, and Throne.live seemed to be the way to go. So, with that being said, I would like Brian O. You have the floor to explain since we last talked. I remember what year that was that we last talked, but did I actually watch the Ascension videos before I spoke to you, or did I watch them after I spoke to you? And all the founder stuff I know wasn't there, but you are got the floor now to talk about what you want to talk about regarding the videos that you have gotten up there since we last spoke.
Well, hello, Andrew. It's good to hear your voice again, and it's good to be back with you. Lord knows I've missed this show. Uh, yes, I think the last time I was here, you had watched a few of the Ascension shows, but I think it was afterwards you finished it off, and that's quite a task, actually. There's quite a bit more to Ascension than any of them. But yeah, the main reason I guess we're here today is the new one, the third book of the trilogy, The Founders. This is an entirely different kind of production. The, uh, the Book of Man had a foundation and a base of source material scattered across thousands of years worth of historical documentation. Same thing with Ascension. Ascension has, there's so much of it that we actually have physically in our hands from historical artifacts and whatnot that was pretty easy, really. But the Founders is an entirely new direction because um, there is so little and next to nothing to go on about this period of time, predating uh, basically the foundation of this solar system. And so basically, I had to utilize some of the same processes I used in the book, in the original Book of Man, by studying the hard science and utilizing that hard science as the foundation, and then taking the next logical step by basically formulating what I think happened. Now, there may be some disagreement with my viewpoint on this from some folks in some corridors, but I got to tell you that there's probably some foundation to a lot of this. Um, I'm tackling the white elephant in the solar system. So I'm sure you've got a list of stuff to hit me back with here. So feel free to jump, man.
Yes, and well, let's start with the Founders series. I couldn't help but notice that when it came to the series talking about how the founders, whoever they were, and I'm thinking this is the same founders that Alex Collier is talking about when he said these higher level consciousness entities decided to create things out of source material to have experiences in this universe. And the thing that kind of got me was that maybe your program is pushing the idea that stars are powered by nuclear fusion, and more people nowadays are kind of realizing that that's a big lie, and that the universe is actually electromagnetic, and stars are hotspots on an electromagnetic stream throughout the entire universe, and it's not really a vacuum, it's more of a plasma. As we're led to believe, it goes against everything we've ever learned through the mainstream science and textbooks. But I don't know if there was any way you could have incorporated that in your program. But I just need to put it out there because it is a big deal now that many programs such as channels such as Thunderbolts Project and See the Pattern are really pushing the electric universe theory idea, which actually makes it possible for life to exist around the universe more so than it would if we actually believe the garbage theory of nuclear fusion, which says the planet has to be in the Goldilocks zone. Well, that's not the way it works. Stars don't radiate heat; they actually give it out to their system. So when you were talking in that program about the planets were not suitable for life, did you have in mind the nuclear fusion theory, or were you taking into account the electric universe theory, or were you actually not taking into account at all?
Well, as far as any system solar center, um, I have no intention of considering that at the moment because also, before I go much further, let me agree. I too do not agree with the fusion methodology, and I am totally 100% on board with the electric universe. Some of the theoretical work done by Thunderbolts was just, it floored me. It's phenomenal. It's my gosh, it's almost spot on, I would say. And so the way I approached this one with the founders is that this is a more of a gravitational relationship between all of the bodies in a system. If you take into account mass bodies, each with its own gravitational field and magnetic field, by the way, electromagnetic field, just like you said, there is an interrelationship there that is governed by their position in the system. We're actually seeing an interesting thing occurring in our solar system at this moment with the alignment of, I think, pretty much all of our planets. We're still waiting to hear back on how that one's going to turn out. But every night, if you look out, you can see all the planets in the night sky lined up, just as sweet as they can be. And so I think the way I address this is that during the early formation of solar systems throughout galaxies, there was no rhyme or reason to it. Um, some of the planets were all jammed up right next to the star. Some of them were like at the back end of the system, at the far reaches of the solar field. And so there had to be some sort of a logistics and concept of forming systems based off of both the electromagnetic and the gravitational forces of all these bodies, so that there was a balance to aid in sustainability. Otherwise, you would have literally, you'd have suns novaing every 100,000 years or so. You'd have planets just running into one another. So there had to be some sort of a formulation that was accomplished, and so that's the approach I took here.
Yes, and the universe is a lot more complicated than we can make sense of in more ways than one. And regarding the nature of our solar system, there's the idea that the planets don't actually rotate in a flat disk around the sun. A more appropriate model, a best way to describe this would be, think of a traffic cone, put a ball on top of the traffic cone representing the sun, and then put little balls circling around the traffic cone, draw a straight line down from the top of the cone, the sun ball, to the bottom of the ground, and the balls that are orbiting are actually orbiting the not the sun, but the imaginary line there that is drawn when the solar system is traveling through space at tremendous velocity. And astrologers have pointed out that this is actually the way the solar system must be. Cliff High, the Webback guy, actually said retrograde would not work the way that we accept it to work unless the solar system interpretation was that it looked like a spiraling, corkscrewing traffic cone in the way that I described. Do you have anything to say about the solar system new interpretation?
Well, if I remember correctly, there was one quite a few years ago, and actually I utilized it one time in a video. Um, the and like you said, the corkscrew method. Yes, we all of the planets in this system are not on a flat plane. They are not orbiting in perfect circles. Um, and even worse, the sun is not standing still. So, I mean, there is so much movement, so much, you know, counterpoint to all of this. It's at some point in time, mainstream science is going to have to get out of their stupid spiderweb ridden closets and start actually looking at what's going on out here. Um, and I'm sorry to have to say that like that. It's just, you know, there are so many fantastic theories out there, even from mainstream, but none of them actually pertain to what's going on. It's sort of like they take, you know, as long as they maintain Newton's laws and Einstein's theories, then they're guaranteed tenure, and they might even actually get some more funding next year.
Well, when you say that Newton and Einstein are wrong, it's not so much that they are wrong as much as it is that their laws of science do not take into account the fact that when you expand your consciousness and realize that there is much, much more potential beyond the speed of light, then we have to become accustomed to that kind of stuff. Now, it's a funny thing when I hear that the laws of physics don't really apply anymore. Someone in that, like the 9/11 truth movement, might say, "Well, that makes us discredited because we always use the laws of physics to show that the World Trade Center couldn't have come down the way it did, so this discredit us because now you're saying the laws of physics aren't applicable." Well, no, it's not like that. In reality, you can take a deep breath and relax 9/11 truth movement because the matrix system that staged the event is um, confined by the terms of those laws of physics that they are trying to put you in, so you are not discredited when you try to explain the laws of physics to show that the official story of 9/11 is a lie. I'm going off a tangent here, but I want to make sense of the idea of how we can realize that Newton and Einstein are not so much wrong, but not looking at the whole thing in as much detail as they should. Do you have anything to say about that?
No, they're not wrong. Actually, Newtonian physics and Einsteinian physics pertain to Earth in every stretch of the imagination. It's when you get off the Earth, when you get out into the solar system and out into the greater universe, things don't mind like they're supposed to. I mean, there there hasn't been a new law developed in quite some time.
Yeah, and the laws don't actually change. Um, Redshift is one of those things that has gotten a lot of flack regarding how it should actually work. I don't think we need to spend too much time talking about that per se. I'd like to get into a little bit more about the founder races. And when you think of the founder races, I presume you are talking about Alex Collier and the races he speaks of, the founders, he can't really describe it as any more than a higher entity of consciousness that creates things to enable source to have an experience. But in your video, you depicted it as a UFO flying over a planet. I don't really think the founders would actually be using UFOs or big motherships flying over a planet. That's not their MO. When we're talking about higher levels of consciousness, we're talking about other dimensions. So, what do you have to say regarding the existence of the founders and where they are, who they are, and where they come from, and what they do?
Well, the basic premise of the founders is the same premise that's used throughout the entire set of books. Um, this is a third density based realization. Okay, uh, going past fifth, sixth, seventh, 11th, 13th density, that's an entirely different ball of wax, and that requires its own development, its own explanations, and similarly its own physics, basically. So what I've done is I've tried to distill this down to third density. You know, if this race or races had their feet solely planted in third density, and even though they may have had some sort of expanded consciousness, we are definitely talking about a superiority, technologically advanced third density race, probably unlike anything that's ever been seen since. That's my entire premise. Um, in equating them to Alex Collier's purview of the founders, it's not meant to go against them or make light of them. It's just a different approach.
Yes, and regarding what is happening here on planet Earth, we are in a time of great challenge, and it appears that America is, well, are we going to go through a civil war or an American Revolution? I would certainly prefer, if I had to choose between the two, an American Revolution instead of a civil war. Nobody wants to go through a civil war. That was really bad. Abraham Lincoln got all sorts of flack when the Americans, North and the South, went to war in the Civil War. No country, it's like total embarrassment when your country goes to civil war. But it appears that that's actually what's going on here, and we are going to change things on planet Earth in the very, very near future. The date that I've been giving out very often of April 8th, 2024, is the date of that solar eclipse that will crisscross across America and signify the end of the Roman Empire of the modern era that is the United States of America. And coincidentally, it coincides synchronistically with the whole Pluto in Capricorn thing, dealing with the destruction of everything that is not in humanity's best interest. When did the last time this stuff happen? The American Revolution. So you have to think, okay, we are in a Civil War, American Revolution, but America's going to fall apart. How are we going to survive? And, well, here's the deal. I remember Alex Collier saying in a Goldfish Report interview that the overlord reptilian aliens are gone. So here on planet Earth, we don't have to worry about the powers that be having the luxury of someone of a higher up coming to save them in the event that a white hat is trying to overthrow the powers that be to progress the future of humanity in the right direction. Now, how is this going to play out in the next few years? We don't know. But do you have anything to say, whether pessimistic or optimistic, and taking all this into account regarding the upcoming future, regarding the change of America and the rest of the world at large up until 2024, and the rest of humanity being able to move into a new age where there is no control system that interferes with free will?
Well, let's put it this way. I kind of danced around that topic in the last chapter of Ascension. Uh, Chapter 10 of Ascension pretty much, I mean, short of actually coming out and throwing mud balls, um, the the powers that be are, and I'll say it again out loud, the powers that be are out of gas. They are. They got nothing. You know, all they can do is the same things over and over again. They got nothing new. If in fact, if Alex said that the Draconians have left, they're gone. I missed that one, but in a lot of ways, maybe that makes some sense because there was too much pressure to bear on this planet for this time, and so it's very possible. Uh, I'm not convinced they're gone, but again, looking at the track record of the powers that be, they're not doing any better than they were back in the 1800s. Not really. You know, if you look at what's going on right now in our modern history, there is no difference between what's going on right now and what was going on 100 years ago. And that tells me right there that the whole 9 yards is still it's like on coast. That they have no advance. They can't get advance. They can't go forward. Uh, they're not getting any better. That's for sure. And so, as with all things, there has to be a degree of entropy. There has to be. There has to be absolute shutdown chaos. Is it performed by someone or something? I don't think it has to. I think it's going to take care of itself, to be honest with you. I am absolutely convinced that the human race is already on the path to expanded consciousness. There are just too many people out there right now who are seeing things, who know things, who understand things that were not available to us 50 or 100 years ago. I mean, it's become a phenomenon, actually. Um, I may have deviated from the question.
It's all right. I deviate all the time, trying to make sense of the nature of reality. But yeah, Alex Collier, he did actually say the overlords are gone regarding the Draco overlords that are in the top of the Illuminati ladder of authority on the powers that be that have herded humanity into sheep-like entities and made an alliance with the Anunnaki that Zachariah Sitchin talks about. They've been out of our reality for a while as well. So this world at this point is basically up to us humans to try to live the best that we can in the foreseeable future. And there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that feel that talking about things like Nasara, Jasara, and all the currency reset and all that is going to make humans complacent and become apathetic couch potatoes, thinking that we don't have to do anything because the aliens are going to come and save us and instill the global gold-backed currency. Well, there seems to be something in place to do that. I mean, I cannot imagine how the system of loaning money that doesn't exist and charging us interest on it can continue forever, because that is the ball and chain that has been um, suppressing humanity's consciousness, at least since the Nixon shock of 1971, and even longer in some regards. And something has got to give, and people are talking about all sorts of things like maybe cryptocurrencies are going to become the prominent thing for humanity to use in the future, and we're going to start exchanging and trading in whole new sorts of other things. There was a video I saw on my subscriptions on the USA Watchdog channel that I'm chomping at the bit to watch later, about how the stock market is going to um, go through some sort of a rapid change, and knowing how the banks can manipulate the price of gold, and how the banks recently got just a slap on the wrist for raking the price of gold and silver. you have to think that there's something going on behind the scenes that will eventually, and it's getting annoying. Like next Tuesday, RV's going to happen. It's a lot of people are getting sick and tired of it and want it to happen, but then again, some people don't want to push it because it's going to make people apathetic couch potatoes. How do you, as a creature on this earth, go about this idea of trying to push forward a new financial system where we can also release technologies too, like extraterrestrial technologies that will enable us to quit our 9 to 5 jobs and do get what we need and then some without having to work for it? Many people think, well, humans by nature are lazy. They're just going to say, give me what I want, and I'm not going to have to do anything about it. That's the problem, some think, with releasing that kind of technology. I tend to remain optimistic, but does humanity actually need a nice kick in the pants as a wake up call for this? Do you have anything to say about that?
I'm not so sure that a kick in the pants is really warranted, to be honest with you. Um, I had a discussion a long time ago about, as we discover new things, all right, new things about ourselves, new vision, new dreams, new understanding, new knowledge, okay, and all you have to do is look at the world around you, and all of a sudden you notice, well, wait a minute, I'm getting this stuff. How come they're not? And you know who I'm talking about? I'm talking about them, they, well, whatever they are, whatever them are. Um, they're not. The only thing that they're actually getting their hands on is any kind of new accidental discovery in technology that they are, it's obviously quickly sequestered. It's gone. You never see or hear of it until 20, 30 years after the fact. Um, like I said, that's their game plan. That's all they have. That's all they've had all along, and it's not gotten any better. So, as I think with the opening of consciousness across the globe, not and for the listeners outside, not everyone on the planet is glued to Entertainment Tonight and the 6 o'clock news. Okay, the rest of the known Earth go about their lives in whatever manner it is, and however they can live their lives. There's only a really narrow functional part of human society who is just completely, well, I won't use that phrase. I think you get what I'm saying, though, is that I think people would be actually amazed how many more people are awake to this entire debacle, and how there's going to become a point where the overwhelming construct of this planet is going to start tipping the other way, where people are going to go, I don't care anymore. You guys, you want to have your little stock market, you want to have your little gold futures, you want to have your little Federal Reserve, you want to have your little government and military, you go right ahead, because we're going somewhere else.
Yeah, I want to go somewhere else too. And it begs the question, what can the president do to help us there? I have said many times on this show that Donald Trump's uncle was one of the people who confiscated Nikola Tesla's technology after Tesla died in that New York hotel room in whatever year it was. And Tesla always wanted to get the technology out to everybody free of charge and didn't want anybody to have to pay for it. But JP Morgan and the rest of the robber barons and the bankers insisted that he not be allowed to release that technology. And well, Donald Trump, I cannot help but wonder, is he on our side? And if why, I'm sure he is. Donald Trump, the man, from what I've seen, wants to be a good president. He wants to pick up where JFK left off before he got his brains blown out in Dallas. And he also wants to kill the bank like old Hickory Andrew Jackson did and became known for. But the problem is Donald Trump still has some weak links in his chain. Among other things, his son-in-law is in bed, literally and figuratively speaking, with Jared Kushner, his son-in-law. Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is in bed with Benjamin Netanyahu, who David Icke has been saying for years is the de facto real president of the United States. And, well, I have said it many times, and I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to say it for the sake of giving Donald Trump a kick in the pants and everybody, all the Trump supporters out there who think Donald Trump is a savior. It was brought to my attention at a conference that I went to that when Donald Trump met with Henry Kissinger, the Emperor Palpatine of planet Earth and the Dark Lord of the Rothschild Zionists, if you will, that's basically Henry Kissinger to a T, met with Donald Trump and told him that in that meeting in May of 2017, he, for all intents and purposes, said, "Mr. President, you will do what my minions and I tell you to do, or else you and your family will be dead." And that's a very unpleasant thing to know, that our president is being threatened behind the scenes. But then again, if there's good forces behind the scenes, real force, good like angels and extraterrestrials that are helping, that want to release the things to help humanity, how can we be sure that Donald Trump is going to be on our side or not be on our side and chicken out, even though he's got a big ego? I've said a lot. Any comments about this?
I'm not going to pick on personalities. The cult of personality is it's a nasty place to go. All right. What I believe about either of the candidates, Trump or Biden, is negligible. What I will say though is that what we've seen in the past is that the best of intentions have led to the worst of situations. Not because that the intentions weren't followed through, but because something or someone behind the scenes turned the screws on the whole 9 yards. A perfect example of this, and I'm not going to mention any names, it's not important. What is important, though, is that there was a researcher out there in the field who was making discoveries on the potential of alien races on Earth, who later flipped 180 degrees and came back and said, "Oh, no, they're human. Never mind, disregard." And I literally, I think I knocked half my desktop off when I heard that, because it's like, wait a minute. You know, you spent decades researching this stuff, and you're going to turn on us at the last minute? So you see, the deals behind the scenes can be made and are made. All right. I mentioned this to somebody else the other night about, if you remember the situation with JFK, you know, we would all like to pinpoint who exactly was responsible for pulling the trigger. But the truth of the matter is that JFK was so rich, he had the power to say no. If the powers that be came to him and said, "Look, John, you're going to do this or else," JFK was rich enough he could go, "No." All right? Trump is exactly in the same position at the moment. He's rich enough, he can't be bought out. And so he can say no, but the question is he? Is he gonna? I don't know that. That's future realm. I'm not psychic. I lost my psychic powers decades ago. So anyway.
Well, I'm not psychic either. And of course, we don't know what the future is going to hold in store, but it's always worthwhile to point this out. And, well, the technology that we can use to be able to get humanity to get everything that we need and then some. Alex Collier has said that his Moroni Visayas, they were like telling him, I cannot believe that your planet Earth, you have to work to make a living. You shouldn't have to be a slave to the system and provide for yourself. Well, it appears that we are more and more, as the day goes on, losing the control system. But are people going to be socialized about it, make a socialist system about it, or are they actually going to want to do their part to make it work? Because many people are saying America is becoming more and more socialized. California is like the worst case of them all in regards to a state that's become socialized, where everybody's getting like helicopter money, as they call it. And some people think the government wants they want the government to be their mommy. On the other hand, there's people that want the right, who want the government to be their daddy. And, well, if I had to choose between the two, I would certainly think, if I were forced to, the right is more in line with government, because government is supposed to exert by any force to protect the rights and property of everyone that is under the auspices of that government. And you would think that if we can get the ETs to intermingle with us and talk with us whenever that year may be, and Brad Johnson of Channels Ladronis has given 2050 as a probability date regarding when humanity will finally be awake enough to have the extraterrestrials come down to the Earth and say, yeah, we're here, here we are, the extraterrestrial astronaut theorists and UFO we're right all along, here we are, here's the proof, now you have no choice but to believe it. That won't happen until 2050. And, well, if that does happen, do we need a government of sorts to protect us, or can we find a way to live in perpetual harmony with everyone and maybe go out into the rest of the galaxy? Can humans handle the truth? And Corey Good has made it clear that some of his contacts say that they don't believe humanity can handle the truth, and if the truth comes out, it's not going to be a kumbaya moment. Any comments?
Well, I'll fall back to Alex Collier. He himself said at one point that they were confused, and you had a partial quote there of his. I will give you the actual quote, and this was one of the parts of the foundation of what started me on my little quest. When they asked him, "Do you know you live on the only planet you have to pay rent for?" We have to pay rent to live on our own planet. That is the basis of our system here. And another question about this entire thing, in fact, one that Alex brought up about some of this overview, is that they're not going to let us off this planet. If we're going to carry this socialist fascist system into space. Are you kidding me? We're going to let the powers that be represent the human race in the rest of the universe with these crap weapons we have, and these crap craft, and this crap mentality, and we think we're that good? Oh my God. We're lucky if we don't have an Independence Day next week. I mean, really. The truth of the matter is, I think the turning point is going to come, if it hasn't come already. It just hasn't. It hasn't hit the hill like a snowball yet. That's part of the problem. Another part of the problem is this entire systemic problem of our finances here. This whole financial equation with humans and Earth is, oh my God, it makes me want to vomit, because there are some great thinkers out there who have already worked at trying to devise more practical reasons and methodology to have this accomplished. I don't know if you're familiar with this or not. For a while there, Michael Tellinger was experimenting with a new economy, an entirely different kind of franchise system. And I think it was a bold measure, but it was still a half measure. I myself, I've come up with an entirely different concept, probably even closer to something silly science fiction like Star Trek, where we are actually born with credit. We don't have to be issued with money. We are born with credit. Could you imagine every man, woman, and child on this planet being born with credit? I mean, by the time you reach a legal age, if you want to go buy a house, go buy a house. You want to buy a car, go buy a car. You don't have to go to the bank. You don't have to borrow the money. You don't have to pay interest rates. Why? Because you contribute a human element to the society.
You said it pretty well, and that's the kind of kick in the pants that humanity needs. And regarding what we can do to make humanity engage in that trade system where there is no money, well, even though we're the only system in the solar system that uses money, according to our scholar, he's been saying for years that we're the only system in the Milky Way that uses money. That doesn't mean the other systems don't engage in some form of trade. So we should be able to trade with the other systems by working with our technologies, but as long as we allow the powers that be to continue to suppress us, then it's going to become a problem and a hindrance to our awakening. Now, great things, I said, I gave the dates out of 2024, and it's an interesting fact. Matthias De Stefano, an indigo child from Argentina, I believe he said that around the year 2022, there's going to be the sacred geometry grid of the Earth is going to be harmonized in a way to allow humans to get along with each other better than they otherwise would. And that's kind of a big deal because you see humans on planet Earth, they're friends and they're also enemies at the same time. It's kind of sad that the way things go like that. But as Matthias De Stefano asserts, if this sacred geometry system can encourage humanity to get along better, and it's going to happen in a couple of years, well, the future is the future. But do you have anything to say about this phenomenon, sacred geometry system around the Earth, and do the ETs maybe have some role in it?
I think there is definitely a sacred geometry here. One of the easiest and most telling artifacts of this is, and I'm sure someone out there knows more than I do about this. I'm just basically hyper guessing. But there are so many pyramids on Earth which predate known civilization. And I'm not talking about them crumbly little suckers in Egypt. I'm talking about real pyramids. We still haven't heard about the one that they discovered in Alaska. We know there are some in Eastern Europe. We know there's some in Siberia and Russia. We know there's a ton load in China. They're all over the place. And yet, mainstream anthropology and archaeology refuses to address this issue. It's like that's why I'm saying they're reaching a tipping point where the available information is going to overload their little sandbox brains, and they can't write a paper on it because they don't know bupkis. You know, they've all been cornered in their little sandbox. And so at some point in time, there's just going to be an upwelling where they're either going to walk away from it or they're going to jump on it. I'll make a prediction, okay? and I don't do this, but I'll make a prediction. Sometime within the next 10 years, a major PhD scientist, whatever discipline it is going to break the tradition, come out and say something that goes completely against the entire mainstream science, architecture.
Yeah, that would be something if we got a scientist to come out and not be afraid of anybody trying to murder him and his wife and kids if he exposes the secrets. Because that's basically how the powers that be have been suppressing people from being able to get the information out. They basically tell them, we're going to murder you and your wife and kids if you expose this stuff. Is that understood? But if what Alex Collier says about the overlords not being around to come and save them in the event that the white hats are going to suppress them, well, we don't have to worry about that. So it's going to happen more and more and more. So this upcoming election is going to play a big toll on our collective consciousness. And God help America if Joe Biden becomes the president. He is like demented beyond belief. And well, I don't know what to make of this, because on one hand I got Andrew Bartas, the Akashic Records reader, telling me that I should get off voter registration to get out of the system. But then I hear Bashar, who channels Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar, saying that you need to go out and vote in this election. And I just got a letter in the mail saying, well, okay, what is the point? I mean, I want Trump to win if I had to choose, but then again, I don't know if I can believe that he's going to be on our side as long as he's got people like Henry Kissinger and Benjamin Netanyahu holding his leash. But everybody knows that, well, not everybody knows, but everybody can relate to the fact that collective consciousness is definitely activated during an election year of a president in a country, and that's going to be the case this year. And some people, like UFO enthusiasts, were thinking that Obama was going to push for the disclosure of information. They were suckered. They didn't know what they were talking about. They realized that Obama was a fraud, and Hillary Clinton and the same deal. But what can we expect out of this? I've even got a guy who's saying that our whole world is going to change for the better in November. But I'm thinking, whoa, 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 dude, it's not going to happen that quickly. We're going to have to fix a few things. So regarding the election, and do you think there's anything going on behind the scenes to make sure that it's going to go out the way that it's supposed to?
Well, I'm still going to take the position that there is always a behind the scenes. There's always the closed doors. There's always under the table. There's always the secret cabal, whoever you want to call them. The only thing I can say about this coming up is three really powerful and important words. I don't care. Because basically it's like this, yes, I would like to see Trump win. I definitely would not like to see Biden win, and I'm a lifelong Democrat. Okay? But I would rather see Trump win. But if he doesn't win, so be it. Whatever. You have to understand, people that are awake and aware don't care, because we have an entirely different ball game we're playing in. We're only the people that are angst-ridden and scared and afraid are worried about who's going to be this or who's going to do that. And it's like, look, get over it. All right? That's the package we're selling. Okay? It's not a question of being passive. It's a question of understanding what is going on. There are things you cannot change. Just worry about the things you can change, because that's where your power is.
Yes, one person cannot change the whole world, but you can certainly change yourself to allow for things to come to you via the law of attraction. And I'm certainly doing my part. Um, I don't need to babble on and give people advice on what they can do to um, to help with that. Everybody's got their own strategy, but when it comes to making this world a better place, um, among other things, we've been told that the ETs may actually be getting all the plastic out of the Pacific Ocean and use it as some sort of a technology thing to get all that plastic out and then make a machine out of it. That would be nice if they could do that, because there's so much plastic in the Pacific. There's a search engine called oceanhero.today that I've made a living out of whenever I'm watching YouTube, just typing, pressing the button on my mouse key over and over to keep refreshing the page, to keep allowing for them to generate ad revenue. For every 5 searches, they say we generate enough ad revenue to pick up one piece of plastic out of the ocean. And if it is true that there are ET brethren out there who want to help us, and I've heard some people on my show say this, they're going to take all of the plastic out of the ocean to help Mother Earth ascend, because it can't really ascend if it's got a big plastic weight on it of sorts. Then, well, maybe people should do their part to litter and not litter, I should say, and make this world a better place. Do you have anything to say about that? About the aliens making this world a better place regarding pollution, or making not pollution anymore?
There's a story going around that the USOs, the undersea objects, are actually mining Earth for our plastic, and they're using them for off-world containers. Um, that wouldn't surprise me at all. What makes perfect sense about that is that those butt wipes at DuPont and the rest of the plastics companies uh, could be selling direct, but no. Make the humans pay for it.
Right, right. And well, we've reached the hour point here, so I guess I might as well give you the chance, Brian, to get out anything you'd like to get out regarding the future of the Book of Man and what you may be making regarding the story of humanity. And because, well, if humanity is going to be seeing great things, as Alex Collier says, then there's going to be a great amount of textbooks that need to be written to that don't brainwash, but actually tell the truth about humanity and what good things we are going to be seeing and great things are coming to us in the coming ages. And your history series has definitely woken up a lot of people, including yours truly. So I'd like to give you the chance now to get out anything you like, as well as the links and anything that you see for the foreseeable future regarding your work.
Well, I appreciate it, Andrew. And listen, man, this has been fun. Man, we should do this more often. But with that being said, I was just thinking about this morning. Um, as far as the Book of Man is concerned, you know, whether someone agrees with it or disagrees with it, believes it or doesn't believe it, understands it or doesn't understand it, um, the possibility exists, just so you know. The possibility exists that tomorrow morning, an extrasolar race could land here on Earth and say, hey, who's this Book of Man guy? He's all wrong. I mean, it could happen. But you know what? I think the truth of the matter is that there is a story in there that is true to us. It is true about the human situation. All right. Yes, it covers some what sounds like some far-fetched things, but it's true to us. It is true to the human species. Um, and yes, not everything is our fault. Okay. Yes, we've mucked up quite a bit here, but everything is not our fault. Actually, the blame can be very squarely placed on others. And unfortunately, some of those people are still operating in that capacity. But, with that being said, uh, I am hopeful. I am very hopeful because, we still have children, we still have babies, and they're wonderful creatures. They're us without our bullshit. Okay? We need to get to the point to where we understand what is going on here, to the point to where we don't have to drag those poor little critters through the muck and mire that we came through. I mean, that's our goal anyway. All right. You've heard this said many times. I want to provide for my kids like I didn't have. Well, you know what? Why don't we provide for our kids like we would never have? You know, show them things that they're not being told. Show them things they're not being taught. Show them things. That's all I can say. And other than that, the Book of Man's going to wrap up as a trilogy, hopefully by the end of this year. I've halted publication of the book due to this lockdown crap, the COVID thing. I was told by some friends of mine that are resellers up at Amazon that when this whole lockdown thing first started, deliveries were iffy because no one was sure what the status was at, like, the major shipping hubs. And so there for several months, I've actually lost books in shipping. So I turned off the shipping setup that I have. So right now I'm making bupkis. I'm not selling any books. And so currently I'm waiting for the time to come here very soon, I hope, where I can actually load up ISBN numbers on all 3 books and let Amazon futz with the delivery. And also, just so you know, all 3 books at some point in time will reopen for sale and delivery as 3 separate books. But what I'm looking to forward is a compiled hardback of all 3 books. The actual fat trilogy, and it will be. And then I'm also going to be working on a compendium of appendices with sources, maps, information, background, all kinds of stuff to follow the final trilogy assemble. And then I have some other books on the back burner. So we are not done yet, at least, not until somebody starts throwing dirt on me.
And I'm not done yet. And, well, it was a pleasure having you on. The chat didn't really seem to get all chatty with a lot of people. There were a couple people that I see put a couple things there saying, oh my God, he went live. Well, this is the way it's going to be, folks. And I hope that many of you will find a way to get interactive with my shows from now on, because that's the way I want to do it. So that's the way it's going to be. And good luck to you, Brian O. Good luck and everything you do. And I will certainly watch your videos when they come out. Don't have to send me an email or anything. I'll just keep my eyes and ears open for anything that comes out. And best of luck to you. People use discernment the best they can.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm glad glad I got a chance to talk to you again. It's good to hear your voice. Love your show, man. And maybe sometime down the road we can do another one.
Maybe so. Take care. Bye-bye.